Welcome back to the Mental Game Gym podcast, where we train the mental side of sport, just like you train your body on the ice, on the field, or in the gym. I'm your coach, Andrew Crome, and today we're diving into one of the most important skills in the mental game, controlling the controllables. And it sounds simple, and everybody, I'm sure, has heard of that term, or people have said, control what you can control. But this skill is difficult, and it takes practice, and it separates the athletes who spiral under pressure from the ones who stay steady and focused and ready to compete, no matter what's going on around them. And a lot of people think you either have it or you don't. The ability to refocus and focus on the present moment and focus on what matters. But it's a trainable skill. So by the end of this episode, you're going to know what controlling the controllables actually means, why it matters so much, especially when you're not performing at your best. And then I'm also going to give you 3 ways to build that skill so it shows up when you need it the most. So I want you to picture this. This is a hockey scenario. So it's playoff time and you're coming off a solid season, but lately you feel like you've been gripping your stick a little too tight. You're overthinking every shift. Maybe you got scratched the last game and now your confidence is rattled. You're stuck in your head and you're thinking about stats and coaches' feedback and what people are thinking and maybe a scout in the stands. So instead of being dialed in, you're distracted by 100 things that you don't have any control over. And this is exactly where control the controllables comes in, right? We can't control the outcome, the scoreboard, playing time, opinions of other people, the weather. But what you can control is your effort, your preparation, your response to adversity. So that shift, that mental pivot, that's where your power lives, your superpower. So something that I like to do with athletes when I work with them is I get them to make a list. So if you can right now, grab your phone, a notebook, or just take a second to think this through. We're going to make 2 lists, and I want you to make one list on one side of the paper, or if you're on your phone, just make a list of what are the things that you can't control in your sport. So for example, refs' calls, what other players are doing, what other players are thinking, how good your opponents are, how tall your opponents are. That was always one thing for me. When I was swimming, I would always look at the opposition and the other swimmers and think, well, they're really big, right? They're really fast. And that didn't help me in my performance. I already mentioned the weather, right? That's a big one, especially for runners, right? When I speak to runners, they're always checking the weather every 2 minutes and worrying about if it's going to rain. The past, right? Mistakes or situations that have already happened, we can't change those. We can't control those. And then also the outcome of the game. And that's one thing that people focus on a lot is winning. Of course, you want to win, but thinking about that constantly, oh, I have to win, I want to win, it's not helpful. And that's something that we can't control. So think about other things, and I want you to make that list. And then on the other side of your piece of paper, or if you're on your phone, another list. What are the things that you can control? So here we're thinking about things such as your effort, right? You can control how much effort you're putting in to whatever you're doing. Your body language, your breathing, your focus on the next play, how you show up in practice, your response after a mistake, your energy as a teammate, right? How you're speaking to other people, are you bringing them up, right? Your preparation. For me, that's one of the biggest ones. And it's not just mental preparation. It's also, the physical side. It's also things like sleep and nutrition. These are really important things that you can control that's going to give you that edge. So once you've made your list, look at both lists. I want you to think about which list have you been spending more of your energy on lately? And if it's the uncontrollables, then what would happen if you shifted more of that energy to what's actually in your control? That's what the aim is here, is to make sure that as much as possible, we're focused on the things that you can control, because you can't manage what you're not aware of. So this exercise is how you start taking your focus back. It improves that awareness of, oh, I'm thinking about something I can't control. You have this list. So keep it, come back to it often, right? And you'll be surprised how often your focus drifts away to the uncontrollable things. But the more you practice, the more you notice it, the quicker you'll get at being able to pull yourself back to the things that you can control. So come back to that list often, add to it, but keep it somewhere so that you can look at it every day, just to make sure that you're aware of what you should be thinking about maybe you could be thinking about something that's pulling you away from where you want to go and the person that you want to be and the player that you want to be. So think about, where is my focus right now? And this list really helps, especially revisiting it and adding to it and adjusting it if you need to. So now that you've got some awareness, let's talk about how to train this skill so it shows up when it counts. So here are 3 ways to build your ability to control the controllables. Number 1 is using a traffic light system. And this tool helps you recognize your mental state in real time. So think of a traffic light. Okay, in sport, in performance terms, a green light is you're present, you're confident, you're loose, you're focused, right? Everything's good, right? Everything is good. I don't need to change anything. I can keep going. A yellow light is you're feeling a bit distracted, maybe a bit tense. You're starting to spiral. This is kind of the warning zone, right? This is where, like, obviously in a car, you have that decision to make. Do I stop or do I go? This is where we kind of really have to start making that decision on what we're going to do. But then we get to a red light, and that's you're emotionally flooded. You're angry, anxious. You're totally in your head. You're not competing at your best. This is you out of control. This is where obviously we need to stop. So something to do throughout a performance, before a performance, is checking in with yourself and asking yourself, where am I right now? What light am I on? Because then you know if you're a yellow or red, then you can make a change. If you're not aware of it, you can't make the change. So then you can ask, what can I control in this moment? Right? Especially if your mind is off somewhere else. Because usually when we're in a yellow or red, our mind is thinking about aspects that we can't control. It's worrying about the future. It's ruminating over a past mistake or a past situation or what other people think. So the goal of this exercise is to catch yourself in that yellow before you hit red. So think about, for you, what happens when you're in that yellow, when you're a bit distracted, a bit tense. What causes you to get in that situation? What are some common situations? Is it a mistake? Is it a bad call from a ref? Or you're open and your teammate doesn't pass to you? Think about, for you, what gets you into that yellow, and then how you're feeling, right? So notice maybe your heart rate's going a bit faster. Maybe you're feeling like you're squeezing your stick a bit tighter or feeling a bit more tense. The more you practice that, then the goal there is you'll become more aware of when you're in that yellow. So you can catch it and then do something to get yourself back to that green, back to focusing on what you can control, right? And that's really where the mental game lives. Most of the time we might be bordering on that yellow, but we need to make that decision and make sure that we're aware of what's happening so that we can get back to that green. So the next thing you can do, right, once we're aware of it, and if we're in a yellow, how do we get back? How do we get back to a green, or how do we get back to focusing on what we can control? And this is where the 3 R's come in. So recognize, release, refocus. Recognize, release, refocus. So this is a reset tool for in the moment. We need to recognize that our focus has drifted to something outside of our control. Thinking about a mistake or comparing yourself to someone else. Once we've recognized that, then we move on to release. Taking a deep breath and then having a physical cue, like brushing your jersey or clenching and then relaxing your fist, squeezing your stick and then releasing your stick, digging your toe into the ground. So think about, for your sport, or maybe you already do something that acts as kind of like a physical reset that you don't even think about. Maybe you can use that, or think about, for your sport, what can you do that is like a physical action. So figure out what works for you by practicing this, practicing a few of them and figuring out what works best for you. So now that we've released this frustration, this mistake, right, the situation that we've been in, we need to refocus on the present moment, on the next play. Refocus on your feet or your stick position, refocusing on your job. One of the athletes that I've worked with actually writes 3 R's on their glove or on their stick. That's how powerful this is. So they can look at it and remind themselves to refocus. Maybe for you, think about, what is a word that helps me refocus and focus on the present moment. Whether that's just a colored dot, or whether it's like a word such as present or focus or next play. Something like that really helps us. If we can, like a visual cue, if we can look at it, that helps us with that reset and that refocus. So think about, for you, what are maybe some words that you can use that's going to help you refocus on the present moment, whether it's next play, be present. Really, it's about giving yourself an action, something that you can go and do. What can I do right now? Right? I often say to people, what's important now, right? WIN, W-I-N, stands for what's important now. Because if we're focused on that and we're acting on that, then that's giving us a better chance of being successful. So the third thing is clarifying your values. And this is what holds everything together. It's like the glue of your performance. So ask yourself, who do I want to be? Regardless of results, right? And we talked about values in the last episode. So if you haven't listened to that, go back and give it a listen. Think about what's the type of athlete that I want to be remembered as. Maybe it's being relentless. Maybe it's staying calm. Maybe it's being a great teammate, even when you're not getting the game time that you want. Your values are always within your control, and this is where we can go to because they're actions that we live by. So when we compete from that place, then we free ourselves from chasing that approval or obsessing over outcomes. It allows you to start showing up as you, not as who you think you're supposed to be. So use your values. So let's revisit. We've got using the traffic light system to build that awareness and figure out, okay, when I'm at a yellow or a red. If we are at a yellow or red, then we can use the 3 R's. Recognize, release, refocus. Right? We recognize that, okay, I'm out of control here. I'm getting frustrated. I'm spiraling out of control. Then I release it by taking a deep breath and having that physical action. And then we refocus by having that word or phrase that we can say that's going to bring our focus back to the present moment. It could be one of your value words. It could be relentless, be physical, be smart, be strong. Okay, so let's wrap this up. Controlling the controllables isn't just a mindset, it's a practice. Right? You can't just do it once and think you're good. It means noticing when your focus is leaking out into the things you can't control and then redirecting it back into your lane, into those things that you can control. And that's a skill. To recognize that our focus is somewhere else where it doesn't need to be, it's not helping us. And then it's a separate skill to be able to grab that focus and bring it back to what's important and what matters. So it's awareness, it's presence, and it's intentional action. This is something that you can't just go through the motions with. It has to be intentional. And it's something that you can get better at every day. You don't have to just do this within sport, but everyday life. Check in with yourself throughout the day and figure out, am I focused on what I can control? Or am I focused on something else? Am I at a yellow light or a red light or a green light in this moment? So here's your challenge for this week. Before every practice or game, ask yourself, what's one thing I can control today that will help me show up how I want to be? Write that down. Say it to yourself. Have it somewhere where you can see it. Put it on your phone as a reminder or your lock screen. Because when you stay in your lane, that's where your best games live. If you think about your best games, are you focused on the things you can't control or are you focused on what you can control? Right? A lot of people say when they have their best games, they're not thinking about anything. They're in the zone, they're locked in, they're in flow state. This is our aim. We can't always achieve it, but the more we work on it, it gives us a higher chance of possibility that we're going to be in that zone. Okay, so that's it for today's episode. If it's helped you, share it with a teammate or a parent or a friend. And if you're ready to level up your mental game for real, let's talk. DM me on Instagram at TheMentalGameGym or head to thementalgamegym.com to book your first session. Stay present, control the controllables, compete with confidence.